Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in northeast Nebraska, where one person has died after a crash in foggy conditions. It happened Wednesday morning between Norfolk and Madison on U.S. Highway 81. The State Patrol says a backhoe was trying to cross the highway when it was struck by a northbound pickup. The driver of the backhoe died at the scene. The pickup driver was hospitalized but is expected to survive. The crash blocked both northbound lanes for hours. Visibility was down to about a quarter mile at the time because of the fog. In national news, the Trump administration immediately appealed a federal court's decision Wednesday, blocking most of the president's sweeping tariffs. It sets up an appeals process that could make its way to the Supreme Court. Reed Binion has more.
On Wednesday, a federal court dealt a major legal blow to President Trump's global trade agenda. The court blocked the bulk of the president's sweeping tariffs. That includes the so-called Liberation Day tariffs Trump announced in April, and the duties he placed on China, Mexico, and Canada earlier this year, designed to combat fentanyl coming into the U.S. Trump implemented the tariffs without Congress by invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The legal team for the plaintiffs in the case argued the administration interpreted the law too broadly.
What it does is interpret the law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and it says that that does not authorize the president to issue unlimited unilateral tariffs.
The court agreed, ruling Trump didn't have the authority to impose the sweeping tariffs in the way that he did.
The Constitution gives the power to tariff to Congress, not to the president. So that means there's got to be some limit when Congress delegates that authority to the president.
The administration immediately appealed the decision. The White House pushed back against the court's ruling, releasing a statement that read in part, quote, "It is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency." I'm Reed Binion reporting.
A number of reports out Thursday show less than positive news for the U.S. economy. First, employment, or rather the lack thereof. The Labor Department says roughly 240,000 people made initial claims for jobless benefits last week. That's a hike of 14,000 applicants compared to the prior week and more than most economists had predicted. And according to federal data, there was a sharp increase in first-time unemployment in Nebraska. The Cornhusker state saw over 2,100 initial filings, a 160% jump week over week. Continuing claims also rose to a level not seen since November of 2021. Meanwhile, the overall U.S. economy performed slightly better than expected from January through March, but new data shows it still shrank. Gross domestic product registered an annualized rate of negative 0.2% in the first quarter, according to the Commerce Department's second estimate released Thursday. It's the first quarterly decline since 2022. GDP in the final quarter of last year rose nearly 2.5%. And it's a mix of good and bad news in the housing market. The good news is for those looking to buy. There are plenty of options out there. And analysis from real estate company Redfin finds there were roughly 500,000 more sellers than potential buyers in the market as of April. It's the biggest gap between those two groups in 12 years. That could be bad news for those trying to sell their house, especially since despite the overabundance of supply, home prices are still on the rise. The National Association of Realtors said the median existing home sales price went up 1.8% last month compared to April of last year. Well, with the last vote of the day, the Nebraska unicameral making it a law for an athlete in high school or college to compete against their biological sex. 3 separate votes all went the same way in the final reading of LB 89, the most important when 33 votes were approved to invoke cloture. The second vote to bring it back to committee denied by the same margin, and the final vote recaptured the original total. This bill makes it illegal to be born with male chromosomes and compete in a female sport or the other way around in high school and collegiate athletics when their sports are gender specific. Now, there are no publicized cases of this ever happening in Nebraska, but proponents say the bill protects women. Opponents say the bill was needless because of the extremely rare instances, not only in Nebraska, but at all levels of athletics when the issue becomes apparent. Community members across central Nebraska came together Wednesday for a conversation about the needs and opportunities for youth in the surrounding area. The event was hosted by the Buffalo County Community Partners, giving both youth and adults the chance to connect and share experiences. They also highlighted what's working and what still needs more attention as far as youth programming. Mental health support, better access to alternative education, and job training were among the top concerns discussed. Organizers say Buffalo County stands out for its strong community engagement and approach to supporting youth.
I was thrilled with how many people we got to come today. You know, we put out this invite to the community asking people to come, but it's not like anybody's obligated to be here. Nobody's workplace is telling them that they need to show up and support youth. So the fact that we had close to 45 people here, that really is encouraging to me. It shows that we have a community that cares about their young people and a community that wants to connect around these issues and find solutions. So that's very encouraging.
Officials also said there's room to grow, especially in giving students more support outside school hours. The Buffalo County Community Partners and the Youth Advisory Board say they plan to continue their work throughout the summer with various events, recruitment drives, and legislative advocacy. Well, after a decades-long career, an educator who's made stops all over Nebraska, set to retire, Jake Bartecki has more.
An education career spanning over 50 years is set to come to a close. Randy Schleter has been in education since 1974, but now the time has come for the superintendent of Tri-County Public Schools to hang up his spurs.
There are things outside of education that I want to do, that I really passionately want to do, and you can't put things off forever, because forever could be the end, and I want to go places. I want to do things.
Schleter, a native of Wisner, Nebraska, has bounced around the state but always remained in education. His time as superintendent at Tri-County began in 2013. But this is actually retirement part 2 for Schleter. In 2022, he retired but would return to Tri-County shortly thereafter to lend a helping hand.
They were at that time in need of a superintendent. And I just felt somebody that my coming back, I know the people, I know the staff, I know students, I know the community, and I know what the district needs.
Schleter has seen a lot throughout his career and during his time in southeast Nebraska. Of the lasting memories, a recent one is a negative for Schleter, as a bond issue aimed at improving school facilities narrowly failed earlier this month. Meanwhile, a lasting positive is one he hopes continues as he moves on. Continued growth and success for Tri-County.
Make it a destination where people want to come here for activities. People want to come here because of what we have to, what you, the district, has to offer students and patrons.
Now, Randy Schleter's last day at Tri-County is scheduled for June 30th, and he says on his retirement docket, the #1 thing on the itinerary, a road trip across Nebraska. In DeWitt, Jake Bartecki, News Channel, Nebraska.
Well, the next superintendent of the Nebraska State Patrol said goodbye to the city he's served for the last 6.5 years. Kearney's police chief attended this week's Kearney City Council meeting, where he was honored for his time leading the city's police force and congratulated for his new role with the State Patrol. During his time at the podium, Chief Brian Waugh shared a revealing story about what made him eventually decide he wanted to work in Kearney.
October 10th, I believe it was, 2018, that young captain from the La Vista Police Department sat in that chair right back there in the corner as a fly on the wall to learn about the city of Kearney, about a place that I was applying to be their next police chief. And I just so happened to be in attendance at then retiring Chief Dan Lynch. And he stood right here while I sat back there anonymously. And I listened to his comments to city council on that night. He said specifically, being a police chief in the city of Kearney is the best place to be a police chief in the United States of America. And I couldn't agree more.
Waugh received a key to the city from the council members and a proclamation sharing how grateful the city is for all the updates he brought to town and how proud they are that he's moving on to lead the troopers of the State Patrol. Chief Waugh also shared his belief in whomever becomes the next chief being part of a great community with high-level officers working on the force. And after 28 years as host of a morning show with an audience across southeast Nebraska and northern Kansas, a longtime voice hanging up the headset, persevering through personal adversity, Phil Rogge has forged an identity as a local icon. Tim Hackett has more.
It's time for the Marv Engel Memorial Joke of the Day. With today's joke, here's Phil.
Since 1997, Phil Rogge has been one of the primary voices on the regionally iconic morning show on Ole Red 99.5 in Fairbury.
We argue, we fight, we laugh, we make fun of each other, and I think that's what makes the morning show good, because it's real life. It's our stories. We're making fun of, what happened to me last night, or what Phil did yesterday that was dumb, and it's just real. People enjoy that.
You're right.
How do you say it, Phil?
Guillotine.
There you go.
Yeah.
But for many of his 28 years on air, listeners didn't know that the body that supplies Phil's voice, humor, and personality was severely damaged in a 1992 car crash that left him paralyzed.
When you're a quadriplegic, there's not a lot of jobs out there. And that was what was fun at first, was the fact that I could be in a chair, but nobody knew you were in a chair unless we told them, you're just you're a voice.
But once he was invited to join the morning show alongside his longtime friend and co-host Randy Bauer, Phil refused to let his disability define him, instead becoming an icon for his listeners and teammates alike.
Phil in the past has made me laugh. He's made me cry. He's made me mad. And most importantly, he's just brought such a fun energy to working here. And I'm going to miss him a lot.
Phil never thought he'd have a career in radio, but after enduring his life-threatening accident more than 30 years ago, he credits the morning show for giving him a purpose well-suited to his talents, regardless of his physical disabilities.
When I was injured, they told me I probably had 10 to 15 years, and that was 33 years ago. And I think the radio had a lot to do with that. The fact I had a reason.
In Fairbury, Tim Hackett, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the news tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. This is News Channel Nebraska.